Now that we have double walls, we no longer need to be afraid of biters breaking through at any moment, and we can stop monitoring the damage to the walls manually. Only once the enemy fully breaches the outer wall and we hear the alert sound of something breaking, we need to undertake action and repair the damage. In a certain way you can say that we automated the process of monitoring the walls for damage. Anyway, that means we can finally fully focus on the process of building a real, actual, definitive base. Man oh man, if you look at the sheer size of those attack groups, you think we have a full late game base up already, instead of only a couple temporary miners. I don't even want to think about how those attacks will ramp up massively once we set up some real production. Anyway, so there's plenty of action going on at the walls, but we're gonna ignore— wait, why am I taking damage? Oh. Finally, we are ready to fully focus on building an actual base. And to keep the oil flowing in, we first drastically increase the oil buffer tank size. No more distractions there either. It is time to finally turn the resources we've been gathering into the elements you'd see around most normal bases after an hour or so of playtime. We make some large batches so we can keep building for a good while without running out. Anyway, we still have so many science packs left, I think I'll research steel furnaces and steel power poles, so I can immediately build the definitive furnace area without needing to upgrade it later. We just need a few extra science packs. Labs passing science without a delivery point. It looks a little weird, but it'll do I guess. Speaking of labs, 8 are not gonna cut it for the real base, so let's make some more. And let's make 200 steel furnaces. Or 100. Or yeah, we're short on steel again. 66 for now it is. And before we even start the so-called focus building a base phase, the first wall is already breached. Actually, it's looking like it's getting pretty busy everywhere again. And actually that power line is broken with the local boiler about to run out. Oil production must continue, so we grab a chest full of coal and sneak through the forest past a large spitter attack group to go repair the oil. And the walls. And the walls of our base. Will we ever get to building something? With the oil outpost and the base fully repaired, let's give that focus building stuff another try. To avoid getting distracted by more shiny researchable text, we get rid of the temporary lab setup. I lay out my favorite furnace design, increase it to a stack of 12 and then 24 high, and let's see where it fits best. I managed to fit a yellow belt of copper and a red belt of iron in between the ore patches. Now, do we actually need that? For a short while, yes, we can do slightly better than a yellow belt of iron, but getting a full red belt will be a utopian dream for quite a while. We will only have the starter iron patch to work with for a long time, and in fact, the need to claim another iron patch before this one runs dry is probably the next big challenge. Well, given that we survived the enemy attacks until then, of course, the evolution will venture far into the territory of big biters and big spitters before we can possibly be ready to expand. The oil pipe gets sabotaged again, and like I said earlier, good luck trying to fix broken underground pipes in the forest. Okay, back to building. Hey, what? No! Another viper immediately destroys another pipe again. But it's not just the pipes which are in their way, also the trees are going down. Well, let's try something different then. Let's cut away the forest so the biter pathfinding will hopefully become easier, so they won't feel the need to destroy our stuff on their travel. Okay, back to Another wall breaks already. Again, there are spitters in full destruct mode, but fortunately the flamethrower can just barely reach them. Perhaps the walls are at the right distance after all. Hey, building stuff. I found a nice alcove to fit the lab area in. And I bet you we can fit the red and green science manufacturing right here on this cliff edge. And we did. Let's switch it on and see if it works. What, do you think I'm trying to spaghettify as much as possible? Perhaps. But for now I'll claim it's just a side effect of trying to fit purpose-built setups on a small enough area. It's not like we have the space or resources to set up a neat giant 4x4 bus yet, or any other organized system for that matter. Ain't that great? We are 8 hours in, with evolution just 4.5% away from big biters, and we have finally fully automated red and green science. Wonderful. And we even have a basic mall. But on the plus side, the oil area is holding up well now. There were no more breaches or destroyed pipes or power lines. The bad news is the starter iron patch is already down to 200k starting from 307, and we've just only automated red-green signs. Will it be enough to progress to the point where we can attempt to break out of our prison and claim the next oil? That is gonna be the next big question. Anyway, that's the reason the first tech we aim for is mining productivity. But is it still worth it? Yes, definitely. It will increase the ore yield from our remaining iron by 10%, giving us 20,000 iron extra for free. Well worth the science cost, as it takes just 2,500 plates to make the required 250 red-green signs. We have plenty of red-green text to plow through, but let's also set up military signs right here. The assemblers are easy enough, but supplying them will take a while, as we need to automate steel, stone bricks and bring coal over as well. But will we have peace and focus while we build that? No. Not before long, a single attack breaks 2 walls, fortunately both from the outer wall. Not long after though, the biters break through both walls. Fortunately again, the medium biter reaching the turret already was on fire, but again, we need to drop everything and patch that now. But just before we can patch it, another attack streams in. Oh boy, now that could have ended completely different if they weren't stupid enough to somehow ignore the gaping hole in the wall. So, another full repair round it is. Through editing it might not be obvious, but to illustrate just how long all of this takes, do you remember we placed like 20 extra oil tanks? Yeah, they're all full now, so let's connect yet another batch of 20 tanks. We did manage to set up most of the stuff for military science though. A steel line has been set up on top of the cliffs of science, and we're just finishing off the stone brick smelting over here. Let's meanwhile look at the oil outpost, and we can see that the forest saving strat is working beautifully. All that napalm dead just beside the forest without a single tree getting burned. Then, finally, 40 full minutes after we place the military science assemblers, everything is set up and we can see if this even worse spaghetti works. Nice! There are not that many useful military science projects that don't additionally require the blue chemical science, but we'll start off by researching 2 levels of extra fire damage for our flamethrower turrets. With just 2% to go to big biters and spitters, I have a feeling we're gonna need it. The demand for iron is growing, so we finally fill in the mixed ore part of the iron mine, and priority split it accordingly so that hopefully nothing will back up. Well, not only the iron demand is growing, also the power demand. It was already insufficient before we switched on military science, so expanding power is long overdue. Now, we can't connect 2 steam engines as in our usual setup, but we can build a second line between the turrets and the walls and then bridge the gap with underground pipes. And now we've got 30 megawatts available. It's not a full 40 steam engine setup, because we would need cliff explosives for that, but it doesn't really matter anyway, as long as you keep the 1 boiler for 2 steam engines ratio and don't exceed 20 boilers on a single water line, it's fine. Somehow though, most players seem to be very worried about using the full capacity of their offshore pump, which is one of the cheapest producers in the game, costing about the same as a single segment of underground pipes. Yes, not a pair, a single segment. Meanwhile, we are blasting through the red-green techs, including the modular armor. We do want to be careful not to research techs we don't really need though. If the iron patch runs out before we can escape, well then that's it, the run is over. One of those techs is logistics too. Nice to have? Yes, very. Essential? Well, probably, but not yet. At the cost of just 1 furnace, which we can't keep fed anyway, we can manipulate the yellow belts to essentially behave like red belts, by snaking in a second iron ore line and changing the output lines to both output on both sides. We get notified by another breach in the wall. And while we pan around to see the state of affairs in the Foreign Relations department, we see that the oil patch is out again too. Yet another wooden power pole, probably burned down by our own flamethrowers. Well, here we go again. But this time we are armed with steel power poles, easily placed outside of the range of our flamethrower turrets. Yes, I do have a dark feeling that playing around like this someday is not going to end well for me. Anyway, we decided not to clean up the wooden power poles. Not only could they turn out to be a valuable backup, but we ain't got time for that stuff. Since we're in the relative safety of our shell, I start to forget that we're still under massive pressure to get out of here. Meanwhile, after my smug I don't need red belts tirade, I forget that my macaroni setup relies on iron being only on one side of the belt. Fortunately, it's an easy fix, that could have been much worse. And yes, we really need bots to repair our walls sooner rather than later. Because after yet another repair round, We enter the Big Biter era. Oh no.